I'm very excited to be here today. Yes, that's the energy. Come on. I mean, I will tell you why. I've been around like talking in conferences for a long time, especially on the cloud native architecture, but it was on Kubernetes. I think I'm the only Kubernaut in this hall, which is good and bad. It's good and bad. But I want to share a bit about my story, and I think it reflects a lot of the industry story. And there's a reason why I've decided to call this kind of session, "The King is Dead, Long Live the Old or Veteran or Enduring King." Because what we saw in the last 8 years, 9 years, is we saw that circle. And that's also why I think it's very, like, for my perspective, it's easy to say why. Because we saw the entire thing. And in this story of the last 8 years, I'm the village full. And the reason I'm saying that is because I've been part of that like hype cycle, right? I've started with VMware around 10 years ago. I came from the customer side, so I know exactly what you're facing. And when I've started with VMware, I've started with PCF, which is the Cloud Foundry stack, and then PKS, which was the Kubernetes stack. And then we went through a huge circle of how do we bring Cloud Foundry experience to the Kubernetes world. But those are two different worlds, right? It's like oil and water. They don't mix. And along that journey, I think we forgot something which is very simple. What is the Holy Grail? What was the goal? And that's where we are starting this story, this session. What is the Holy Grail? Why we've changed the architecture? Why we've changed everything? We've changed that because of the first, or not the first, but the major shift we had in the last 10 years, which was digital transformation. We wanted to ship faster, get that business advantage, get that competitive advantage, be the first to iterate, more velocity, more applications, more iterations. And to do that, we have to change the way that we are thinking about things. We had to inject speed into slow-moving, pacing, kind of, rolling updates and so on and so forth. I came from the FSI industry. I came from the largest insurance company in Israel, and I was the CTO there. And we had life cycles of every 6 months, or even more than that, just to update something which is very small. And that change 8 years ago basically brought that microservices architecture, small things, ships fast, right? Now, again, that's 10 years ago or something like that. Cloud Foundry was always like already in the making. And containers was there, right, as part of that stack. It changed everything on the infrastructure side, the layers that we've changed. By the way, I came from like the bottom up. I came from the infrastructure. So for me, that was a huge shift. It changed everything, the networking, the security, the management, the way that we are thinking about things. For developers, by the way, that was the only thing they could have done to ship faster, right? Get smaller, get microservices, push it. And Cloud Foundry was an amazing platform to do that because it's abstracted everything, all the hard part and the complexity of actually running that pieces of code. So containers was part of, like a significant part of that, but there was another thing which was the shift to the cloud or the shift to other infrastructure services. Now the reason we've changed to other cloud services and so on and so forth is because it was really hard to implement those kinds of technologies inside IT, except of Cloud Foundry that was already ready 8, 9 years ago, right? Now, somewhere along that time, we also created that kind of a golden path to production, which is a consistent, solid way to take code and to run it. And as we usually do as humans, when something is really, really good, we break it. So we tried then to fix something that was already fixed. We had a golden path. We had a way to take code and ship it into the platform. We had a way to run microservices at scale in a production-ready environment with all the security guardrails, making sure everything is so consistent and neat and tidy and very, very enterprise-ready. And then we said, no, that's not good. Let's do something else, right? Let's think about what we should do. Let's build something new because that's too opinionated, that's too close, that's too good, right? We don't want too good. We want it bad. So we will go and build something new. And that's the pendulum, right? And that's what I see in the last 10 years, which is the pendulum between like a closed source and an open source, the pendulum between opinions and unopinionated, the pendulum between build and buy, right? And everybody here in this room had those kinds of discussions and thinkings in the last couple of years, I'm sure. And apparently all of you decided to go with Cloud Foundry, which is great because you did the right thing. But there's a movement that nobody can, we can't ignore, which is the movement to the open source that happened in the last 6-7 years with Kubernetes, CNCF, and everything else. Now, because I'm a Kubernaut and I'm a CKA since 2018 or something like that, I can say that we did things wrong, right? Because we've created, as an industry, right? It doesn't really matter like the founders specifically right now. But as an industry, we created an amazing API layer to manage infrastructure. And then we've created an entire landscape of open source community of 1,000 projects to support that one project. Right? The entire landscape of the CNCF is supporting Kubernetes as a project because Kubernetes changed everything. And as a customer, when you want to create that kind of path to production, the same golden path, you need to now take a look on 1,000 projects in the open source CNCF and Kubernetes itself, which is super complicated, as you know, and then try to enforce opinions by yourself to get to the same position that we were with Cloud Foundry in the golden path to production. In that pendulum between build and buy, I won't say that Kubernetes is wrong and the CNCF is wrong and the open source is wrong. I think that both extremes are wrong, right? Too opinionated is wrong and too open source is wrong. We need to find some balance in the middle. We need to make sure that from one hand, we have that experience that everybody is looking for and that simplicity and consistency and security. But from the other end, we are allowing some flexibility and some options to change because customers are different. Customers are not the same. And we want to have a solution that will allow everybody to consume and everybody to use and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not going to sell Tanzu or talk about Tanzu, right? That's not the case. I'm talking about CAS and PaaS in general, and I will talk about PaaS, which is not just Tanzu. So we had something, and we've decided that we want to build our own. Why? Because we don't want to marry like a vendor, or we don't want to use just one platform to rule them all. We want to build something, and we want to do it by ourselves. Great. So let's talk about that path to production, that golden path. How many tools in Kubernetes you need to create that path from idea to code to production? And then to run it, and manage it, and secure it, and govern it, and everything else. If you take a rough estimation, and I'm meeting customers every day, the first thing I'm doing with customers is we are putting that path of production to production on the whiteboard. And you will get between 10 and 30 tools. Really depends on the customer and how opinionated it is. So you build that, and you have a monstrous number of tools to build the same castle you already had, and you don't have one golden path to production. You have a million because it's snowflakes. Everybody will use something else. Everybody will do something else, right? Because you don't have a consistent way. You're not enforcing opinions. The opposite. You're saying everybody can do whatever they want. Try to secure that. Try to maintain that. How many people do you need to actually manage all of those snowflakes, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is, and everybody here, I'm preaching to the choir, right? Everybody already knows that, but we just added more and more complexity. We've added complexity by opening everything to an open source. We've added complexity by creating the hybrid cloud and multi-cloud kind of universe. And all of those tools basically made everything worse. But we are an industry. If someone goes, everybody goes, right? If some thinks that Kubernetes is the best, everybody will think that Kubernetes is the best. Is there a reason to do that? No. Why? Why as an industry, we had something that worked, we've decided that we need something else. Everybody went to the something else. Everybody knows, not just in this room. I mean every KubeCon for the last 7 years, customers complained on complexity of Kubernetes every KubeCon in the last 8 years. But they still do Kubernetes. Why? So I mean, That's the herd effect, right? That's like everybody wants to do that. That's the new cool kid on the block. Everybody wants to do CAS. Everybody wants to do Kubernetes. It's abstracted. It's running everywhere. Right. But eventually it's because it's just because we lost the eyes on the ball. Like we lost the cause. The cause was the business advantage. The cause was the ROI on investing on a platform that will bring me back some kind of a business value and competitive advantage and an option to be that kind of flexible and iterate faster and the velocity of the application and everything else. So we lost that. We forgot about the Holy Grail. We just went to the journey because of the journey, right? We are doing Kubernetes because everybody does Kubernetes. It must be good. And obviously it's not. So in this, like what I'm seeing in the last couple of months, years, is that customers got back into that junction of CAS and PaaS. And I will not even talk about Cloud Foundry for a second. Let's talk about the public cloud. What we see in the public cloud is the consumption of the closed services, the PaaS services, is higher than the Kubernetes service. Go to GCP, look at the consumption level of Google Cloud Run against GKE. Go to AWS and check the consumption level of ECS, which is a closed service, right? It's fully opinionated, it's not Kubernetes, against EKS. So what we see is that customers went through that hype cycle of Kubernetes. And don't get me wrong, Kubernetes is an amazing API layer to manage infrastructure. Our entire strategy in Broadcom in the private cloud is dependent on Kubernetes. And I absolutely love Kubernetes on the infrastructure because it changed completely the way that we can consume infrastructure. But what Kubernetes isn't an application platform that you can expose to your developers and achieve that business goal, that holy grail. And without change that we had in the last couple of years of like an exponential growth of homegrown application, microservices, everything just blew up, right, when we divided everything to microservices. Think about the next step, right? If a customer right now has a junction between CAS and PaaS, and he's choosing CAS, and he already loses control. He already in a state of, he's not really managing everything. He's trying to secure everything. I'm going back into V's session on security, right? Try to secure something that has million snowflakes, different ways of doing things. So in that junction, now, the Holy Grail, that business advantage, sorry, I'm going back. Come on. Is now even worse with AI. We had the Holy Grail. We knew what the business advantage is. We knew what we want to do. We knew we need to do a bit better than someone else. We got to the new hype cycle without even knowing it. Like we are done with digital transformation. What's digital transformation? It's like the web. Who cares? It's like the past, right? So now it's AI. And the introduction of AI use cases on a business level, leave aside the personal level, right? Introduces again a shift of everything we know. The way that we will develop, the way that we will ship, the way that we will iterate, the tools that we will need to use inside the organization and outside of the organization, the way that we manage infrastructure and everything underneath that, right? So everything is changing again. But guess what? We all in this room waited enough time for Cloud Foundry to be the best platform to run those types of workload again, right? Because if anything, the change of AI just make those needs for consistency and the private golden path to production and a secured manner of everything up to the costume code and exposure of new services in the marketplace and binding that in a managed way, including the rotation, adoption to rotate and manage along the time. That's exactly what you need when you have, 1,000 workloads and you will have 1 million tomorrow. And you have 2 iterations a day and tomorrow you will have 2,000. Because AI means a lot of iterations. It doesn't really matter if you're, training a model or you're using an application and you're trying and testing new functionality, or if you're just using different AI components as part of a process, right? Agentic process or something like that. It just means that you will have more and more workloads. You will have more and more complexity. And I've spent years in explaining why it's so important to have a consistent way on Kubernetes because of that growth of workloads. But what we saw, and eventually everybody sees that, right, is that no matter how much effort you invest in Kubernetes, even if you have something on Kubernetes running, a platform on Kubernetes, and it's consistent, and it will run always the same, any change in the landscape, like AI, is just changing everything underneath. So Kubernetes, as it seems today, would be totally different tomorrow because of that AI use case. CF is exactly the same today, and it will be exactly the same tomorrow, with the introduction of new use cases, with the introduction of new tools, with the introduction of new technologies. So I think that's why customers that I'm talking with are very, very up to PaaS, now more than ever. Even customers that didn't use PaaS in the past. Like they've used Kubernetes, they don't know PaaS, they are not a Cloud Foundry customer, they never heard about Cloud Foundry, but they've heard about the concept of platform as a service. And now they are not just open, but they also take the decision to land workloads initially, firstly on PaaS, and then on anything else. Now again, I can say that because I was a Kubernaut for a long, long time. And I still think that Kubernetes and the CNCF has a lot to contribute. But again, to get that developer experience and to get that end-to-end motion and to get that simplicity, the only way to do that is with a decent platform. And we are lucky to have something for a long, long time that is bulletproof, right? It's running in all of your organizations. It's running across the globe with a lot of other organizations and customers. And it does a brilliant job in maintaining production, large-scale organization running with true business logic code and new use cases, like I said, on AI and other things. So I think, and I will summarize on that. I don't know how much time do I have, but I think what I wanted you to get from this talk, from this session, is that I can see a lot of, my job is to meet customers, right? Strategy on the product side, but customer from the other side. And I'm meeting a lot of customers, also a lot of customers that didn't have PaaS in the past, but that's the future. That's the strategy they have. The strategy that they have is to go to PaaS, is to evaluate Cloud Foundry as part of the next platform for their AI use cases and for the application use cases. So if anything, you need to think about, after this session, about PaaS and CaaS and what's better for specific use cases. For the next generation use cases, PaaS is way better. And that's, without a doubt, proven with every customer that I'm talking with all the customers that are running CF here today, right? So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I was the Fool's Village. And I have to say it was a great journey for the last 10 years. On the Tanzu side, I can say that we try to get to that balance between Cloud Foundry and Kubernetes, but we definitely make sure that Cloud Foundry is our strategy moving forward. So that's for us and for you that are using Tanzu. And thank you for the time. And it's a pleasure to be here again, first time. And I hope to be here again. Thank you.